Today I would like to recommend a book that was written in Hebrew and is written by an Israeli author. His name is Hillel Cohen, but there is an English translation. So I put the link to Amazon into the box underneath this video, and you can find the English version, the English translation, and the original Hebrew version. I would like to show you this book right at the beginning before I forget. I'm holding this in the camera and I hope that you can see. Okay, the sun is shining again into the kitchen window, but what you are seeing here on the book cover is a destroyed apartment. And this was the case in 1929 when there were the famous Arab riots. So the author, Hillel Cohen, actually in his introduction to the book has a remarkable sentence. And I translated it into English because I only have the Hebrew version. I read it in Hebrew. It is impossible to understand the Arab-Israeli conflict without knowing about 1929, what happened in 1929, when this very violent, huge riots, Arab riots took place all over Israel, which was then Palestine. And the Arabs, by the way, in those days, until towards the end of the 60s, were actually called Arabs. There was no such a thing in those days as Palestinians or Palestinian people. This came much later, and I think it was invented, as far as I know, by Yasser Arafat. But in those days, in 1929 and also decades later, they were called Arabs and not Palestinians. There was nothing as the Palestinian people then. So the book was written by Hillel Cohen, an Israeli author. He's also a lecturer at Hebrew University here in Jerusalem, and he has written another at least 4 books. I don't know, but well, I bought this a while ago. I bought this a few years ago, and I always read it until something like half. So now, especially this Shabbat, although it is not a topic for Shabbat, I want to read it. I want to finish the book, not necessarily today and tomorrow, but within the next couple of days, hopefully a week or 2 weeks or something like this. The book gives you a lot of facts about how the riots in August 1929 started and how they went on in different places all over Israel. In Yafo, next to Tel Aviv, in the old city of Jerusalem, in Tzfat, in Tiberias, and it's in Hebron. Of course, Hebron was a big issue. Many people got killed, many Jews got killed by the Arabs there, the Hebron yeshiva and everything. And when you go to certain places today, to cemeteries, let's say in Tiberias, in Hebron, or in Tel Aviv, the Jewish victims who got killed by the Arabs in 1929 were actually buried in Tel Aviv at the Trumpeldor Cemetery on Trumpeldor Street, which is located right next to Ben Yehuda Street, or off Ben Yehuda Street. You can see what's in the area, the El Al House. It's where the El Al House is, nearby in this area. When you enter when you go into Trumpeldor Street from Ben Yehuda, when you enter from Ben Yehuda, you see the cemetery to your left, and there are many Tel Aviv celebrities also buried, like Meir Dizengoff, the first mayor of Tel Aviv, and some others. I think also the Achat Ha'am. But basically in the middle of the cemetery on Trumpeldor, there is a section. There is like a whole row full of graves, and there the victims, the Jewish victims of the Arab riots, who also took place in Yafo in 1929, are buried. You have the same, by the way, in Tiberias, in Hebron. If you go to the Hebron cemetery, you have it in many different places. So today, there is an agenda, it's an international agenda, to say or to claim that there is no peace process, or there can't be peace between today's Palestinians, who were then Arabs. So there is no solution for the Arab-Israeli conflict unless Israel is getting rid of all the settlements, legal, illegal, whatever. All the Jewish settlements have to disappear. And then the world claims, and also Abu Mazen claims, Holocaust denier Abu Mazen claims, that as soon as all Israel gets rid of any settlement, so there is a chance, or there will be peace between Jews and Palestinians, or Israel and the Palestinian Authority. So you always have to go back in history. And unfortunately, not many people do this today. They concentrate on what's happening now, and they make claims, they make statements. They don't even know what happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago, let alone 70 or 80 years ago. Because when you come with facts, with historical facts, most people say, especially the left, say, this is not true. Or give me a proof, give me a link. But when you go back in time, there is no link on the internet, really, because there was no internet, so where do I get a link from? But when you read certain books, history books, so you get the picture. And as the author said, you cannot, or it is impossible to understand the entire Middle East conflict without knowing history, without knowing and understanding why these Arab riots took place in August 1929 and what was the cause of it. It was actually something stupid, but many Jews, over 130 Jews, got killed by the Arabs in a very violent way. And you still have, I don't know if you still have survivors. You may have, I don't know, some children, or who were then children or very young. I don't know if there's still a survivor. But there is a lot of literature, and you also find on Wikipedia, you also find some facts. So the author, Hillel Cohen, he writes all the details, why exactly the riots started. And he goes from day to day explaining the facts from all over Israel, what exactly happened here and there, and what the Arabs did. To the Jews, it came very much by surprise, and they didn't know how to defend themselves because there was no real defense. And the Arabs came like by the hundreds and like a mob, and they stormed into buildings, they stormed into apartments. As you see here, this destroyed apartment on the book cover, and they just killed everybody. Everybody in their way just got killed. And apparently the world didn't really care too much. And today, no one, people here in Israel, of course, they know about these events. But abroad, you just say, oh, today's Jewish settlements, because of this, there is no peace and everything, and it's so illegal, and it's so, it's not justice, and it's not justified to have a settlement. Well, it is. When you go back in history, you will see that there were already settlements in the 1900s. And no one said a word. Of course, there were riots all over. The Arabs were fighting and everything. But there were also times of peace, or whatever you call peace. But until, I don't know, a decade, 2 decades ago, of course, the settlements have been an issue, but not as the complete reason why there is no peace. The settlements have always existed, also in 1929 and way before. And no one has ever said, if you Jews, if you Israel, if you Palestine destroy your settlements, there will be peace. This was not an issue. And it is not a Palestinian issue. I think Abu Mazen a few years ago was the first one raising the topic. Until then, it was not an issue. There were settlements, there have always been settlements, and this is it. So you always have to look back in history when you want to understand something. Unfortunately, as I said, many people don't do this anymore because they are lazy, they are not interested, they just watch a quick YouTube video and think they understand, or they just watch CNN or BBC or whatever. And journalists are also not interested in history. So I really recommend this book to you. In English, it's actually called, the title was published in 2013. And the English title is 1929, Year Zero of the Jewish-Arab Conflict, written by Hillel Cohen. So I really hope that you, even if you don't get the book, I mean, I don't have affiliated or Amazon, or I'm not getting paid by the author. I'm not gaining anything from this. No money, no advantages, no nothing. I won't be a millionaire because I'm recommending this book. Let's put it this way. I won't even earn a shekel. I won't even earn a cent. But I really recommend this book to you. If you buy it from Amazon, so Amazon will earn money and the author, I won't. That's your decision. But you can also find, if you Google and you want information for free, so just Google it, Arab riots 1929 or something like this, and you will also find all kinds of information. Not as detailed maybe as Hillel Cohen puts them together, all the facts, because he really went into archives and also into the Hebrew University archive. So it's also important, by the way, to know about this history, where everything comes from, and it still matters today. Don't think it is history. It happened long ago, and it doesn't matter anymore. It does. So as it is Friday today, thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the book, enjoy the information wherever you get them from, and Shabbat